Hey there, Euro fam. Here we are. Let's start thinking about some content. I posted something in Google Classroom earlier. It's largely a showing how this chapter lines up with the College Board topic outline. It's probably not most riveting reading, but this is what I use sort of to keep us on where we need to be. So when you're looking for just sort of more what you should be paying attention to when you're reading, take a look through that. I really think it will help as you move forward. So this chapter is literally called The Age of Anxiety. Here we are. And it's an interesting chapter. I mean, I'm, obviously bummed we're not doing this in class. But pay attention. It's this idea that after World War One, Europe is just shook, right? And the carnage of World War One, they are just rocked to their foundation. And then you start having all these new ideas and scientific discoveries come about. The world they thought they knew was proving to not be. And so you really go from a period of optimism to skepticism to pessimism. So really lean in and pay attention to some of these developments like existentialism, logical empiricism, the work of Sigmund Freud. Pay attention to that, Friedrich Nietzsche. These are all important things. Pay attention to those when you're doing your reading. There is, in scientific developments, obviously, the discovery that the atom could be split and the ramifications of that, the potential for that was terrifying. So it's this age of real uneasiness as far as the developments that were taking place after World War One, which they were already going to be so uneasy about what was going on. And then, of course, when we get to the 1930s, you have the Great Depression. You obviously have some background on that. This chapter will give a European perspective on that. One of the activities that we were going to do was to think about how different countries responded to that, what worked, what didn't. It's obviously interesting for right now, as we're facing this economic calamity, to see what the federal government's going to do and to see back then what different governments did, different European governments, to try to address the issues of the Great Depression. There is an art activity that I will put into Google Slides. I'll get it in the Google Classroom probably tomorrow to think about some of these different developments that take place in the art world. And we're really going to start to see art become we're really going to see the art world sort of challenge what's acceptable as art. We're going to see things like brushstrokes in art. It's going to become much more abstract moving forward. And I've told you, I mean, art gets to a point where I don't get it. If you start talking about, mid 20th century moving forward, some things that are considered art certainly move beyond my ability to understand them. But we're going to see some great things you recognize, artists you recognize. And so that's definitely something I want to try to figure out, how to put together something online that you can look at and just sort of work through that activity even on your own, as far as how art's changing and how artistic changes, really reflect sort of the overall intellectual changes of the time period, and how threatening they were and how threatened people were by how art was changing. So a lot of good stuff there. At the end of the chapter, it's going to get into John Maynard Keynes, who, of course, is the guy who says, hey, during times of economic crisis, the government just needs to do whatever they can to keep things moving. Don't worry about deficits and debt. I definitely want you to know about John Maynard Keynes, an important name. So an interesting chapter, obviously a lot going on. Like I said, really lean in on the intellectual developments, the artistic developments, along with sort of the challenges of the Great Depression and how countries chose to respond to that. So, again, I'm going to try to figure out sort of what we can do as far as maybe setting up some kind of online class, Google Hangouts, Zoom, whatever. Like I said, we'll just take small steps, see what works, and just sort of figure this out moving forward. So I'm going to in part set that as a priority for tomorrow to try to figure out what would be the best thing to do moving forward. I guess I look at, on one hand, maybe when we get to the weekend, we say, okay, it's the weekend and let's not do anything like that. Maybe we just say, I don't know, days are starting to all run together anyway. So we'll figure that out. Maybe we shoot for Monday to have our first try to get together online and see how everyone's doing and to talk about this material and have some discussion and to work through that. Man, I mean, who would have thought we'd be here a week ago? So today's Wednesday, so it wasn't even a week ago you took your exam. So this is a great class. Most of you have been through AP exams. I mean, when I first got this list last year, I looked at it, I was like, man, this is an all-star class. And it absolutely is. So we can do this. We can work through this craziness and let's do that. Let's just keep on going. Let's work towards the exam. Like I said, I'm here to do whatever I can. I certainly have time on my hands. I went outside today. Isn't going outside kind of like scary now? I mean, I don't even like to do it, but I got back into my car. I started wiping everything down like it was a crime scene or something. So I don't know. Things are crazy, but I look forward to figuring out what we can do, and I'll talk to you soon.